This video is for 3 deep, 3 under zone pressures. I'm going to start out with actual techniques, then I'm going to draw up a lot of zone pressure ideas that you could use within your system. Remember, every dollar we raise goes to pediatric brain tumor research and cancer services. All right, so you can be a 4 down or a 3 down team, and I'll give you examples. I'll give you a lot of examples of things you could possibly do, but you're you're going to essentially rush 5 players one way or another. And if you're going to stay as a 3 deep, 3 under defense, which you obviously can do, then I'm going to give you a couple different ways you could possibly do this and different ways we've done it over the years. All right. So from I'm going to talk about it's 3 under. So the skiff players are the seam to curl flat, and middle hot. Right. And Bob Sutton taught me this a long time ago. I think you can have a lot of different defenses if you have a good system and you don't have a ton of techniques. So these are the techniques, no matter what 5 I send, we're still going to talk in reference to a skiff player, a skiff player, and a middle hot player, as long as we stay with these 3 deep, 3 unders. And then obviously we have a middle third, an outside third, and an outside third. Right. And how we play these thirds can change a little bit depending on how we're going to actually play the skiff players. All right. So there's a couple different ways to do this. When I first started out, the skiff players were essentially they were match carry deliver on number 2. So if number 2 were to go vertical, we would collision and carry with as much vision as we could on the quarterback until something took us off, which would be really a number 3 going to the flat. I think that's something you can do. I would do that if I was coaching at a really, really high level. Part of the problem with that is I think, one, you could have your skiff players far down the field, much further than you want to be if the quarterback pulls it down. All right. Two, I think it's a little bit harder to get quarterback vision. All right. So another way to go drastically is just to say, okay, I'm going to have these skiff players just going to be landmark defenders and watch all quarterback. All right. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at the lower level because, one, you're going to get pressure, ball's going to come out a bunch, and you really want to see the ball released. Obviously, you're going to completely give up your flats until the ball's thrown there. All right. Which, again, as long as you're matching up this defense, 3 deep, 3 unders, with other coverages where you have hard corners, which I'm going to show you those in later videos to do that, then I do think you could be all quarterback oriented, much like if you were 3 deep, 2 under, right, with a middle hot defender and just purely do landmarks, right? So everything would be on the quarterback. I'd be working 8 to 10 yards deep, and I would just work with the quarterback. Hopefully, I'm getting enough pressure with my 5-man pressures, right? The third way is the way I'm going to talk about right now. I think if you want to get a little bit more detail on that, I think it's critical that you understand, one, where the side of 3 is, right? Because the mic is going to work in relationship to number 3. So a skiff player is play the seam as long as you can until something takes you to the flat. To me, that would be a receiver, which could be number 2 going to the flat. It could be a receiver coming from the other side brings you to the flat, or obviously wherever the number 3 guy is taking you to the flat. All right. So in this 2x2 set, the left side of the screen here would be your side of 3, because obviously this would be 1, this would be 2, and this would be 3. All right. So here would be a number 3. So if I played skiff and you were to go vertical, then I would play the quarterback. And the way I'd look at it is Donnie Dope said this to me just recently, longtime defensive coordinator at Dartmouth University, which I thought was really good, was, hey, I can reroute this guy, but I'm only going to do it with my body or my outside hand. I'm not going to turn my shoulders and try to get a reroute with my inside hand, because that's going to take me away from what I really want to look at, which to me is the quarterback. All right. So, but, and then the quarterback can take me to that flat also. So I've taught my guys all the time that if I were to get naked, boot, waggle, sprint out, whatever it is, then I would work toward the flat, because that's going to pull my middle defender that way as well. So when I do this, the way I'm going to look at it is, yes, I would like to make him go around me to the outside if it's a pass play. So if I do that, then my third player, right, who has to play to me a true third here, at least initially, is because he's got two threats, then I've got both threats in the same spot. All right. If number two were to take me to the flat, right, to take me to the flat, and I'll talk about the third here in more detail, then I'm going to have to work with that flat because if he does truly go out and up, I now am going to have to take that. All right. And I'll tell you why here in a minute when I get to my third players on how I'm playing that. But again, I'm trying to play that seam as long as I can. All right. And make sure, because obviously this is an easier throw. This is an easier throw than if they throw it out here to the flats. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that I think it's critical that you know where the side of three is because the mic is going to work in relationship to number three. All right. So he's got to play the initial three to final three. So I know to the three side, I'm going to get more help. So if I cross like this quickly and he comes here, then I know that, hey, my seam player is going to have to work out here to the flat, but I also know my mic's going to work in that direction. Whereas on the backside, when on the side of two, right? I got to be, I think, more inside leverage. I'm going to get way less help on that. I've got to react quicker and probably have to be closer to where that number two is, right? Because obviously, if he bends it inside, I want to be inside because I'm not going to get any help with the to the three side, or at least I don't expect to, right? Again, all three players to me are trying to stay in tune to where the quarterback is as much as possible. Right? So that's how I'm going to play it. And I think, again, if we have good pressures, the ball's going to come out quickly. So I'm going to say it again to you. I want to play these seams as long as I can. I want to play these seams. But if the quarterback or receiver takes me out of that area, then I'm going to push toward that flat. I'm going to push. If three pushes me that way, I'm going to push that way. If the quarterback's taking me that way, then I'm going to push that way. So I'm working. Again, it still is a zone defense. And as much as I can get great breaks in the football, then that's what I want to do. For the third players, I think it depends on what your what the number of receivers you have is on the perimeter. Obviously, here we've got two receivers on the perimeter. So I see this as a third player, right? Where I'm playing as much quarterback vision as I can. But if one of these receivers eliminates himself, then I can go ahead and turn this into what we call mod, which is man on deep. I now can play that route and play it tight. I know I can do that because if I get it out and I get it up and I get a curl, then I know the corner is going to go ahead and take this curl. So now I do have to go ahead and run with this out and up. Right. I made that mistake a very long time ago at Coast Guard Academy where we jumped the curl here. We weren't playing, we were just playing our curl to flat, and this guy turned it out, and it wasn't on purpose, and then turned it up, and we gave up a huge play to the outside because of how we were playing it. So we do have to account for that. All right. But again, I'm not running deep with guys. I'm going to play him. I'm going to really play this whole thing inside out, which is how I want to build my coverage. I'm going to talk more about the pass end of it, but if I'm from a run standpoint, if it does become a run defender, then obviously I got to be this 1-2 defender. So the corner is going to be in a third. So if they were to block, I need to make sure I turn everything back. Both skiff players here have to make every tackle with their inside foot up, outside foot back, take on blocks the same way, and then he can play it inside out, and so will the middle third defender eventually. Right? Back to the third players again. So if I just have one real threat, so let's say this isn't a huge threat here, all right, or I'm going to go down here in a minute. I'll go down to the 3x1s, then I can play him mod all the way. I got to decide how big a threat this is, right? If this is a big threat and I can get a lot of, it's too much for the seam player here, and I get something like this, then I'll still play this as a third, and it'll become a hot third once one of these two defenders becomes a short defender and not two verticals. So if this Y is a threat at all, then I would go ahead and play it the exact same way I did here to the left to the field in this particular picture. All right. If you drop down here to this next box, so now obviously same thing. This, because the way I have it drawn up, well, even if it didn't, this is the side of 3. So even if I go ahead and I move my back and put them over here, this is still the side of 3. Nothing's changed here. So my skiff player, right, still has to play. I'm trying to play this seam that we talked about, but I'm going to have to take all wheels out of the backfield because I'm going to do this now. I'm going to play this, and you can call it a hot third or I call it mod, where I'm going to play man on deep. So if he comes underneath, I'll zone it off. In and in, I'll zone it all off, and I'll zone off my third. But if he does anything where it starts to be vertical, right, starts to be vertical, then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm playing on top of this first. If I get no other threat here, then I've got him. I've got him everywhere he goes once it's man on deep. So all I'm doing is taking away the short throw. I'll let the zone defenders be able to handle that with an in call. If I get a minus split here, then I can give a call to alert in, or I've used a tuber alert before. So any of those things to make them know that, hey, this can happen really quickly. But I can go ahead and press this single X. Whenever I get this, I've got one receiver there, whether I get the back this way or not, I can go ahead and play it that way. But obviously the mic is going to be working off a 3. So if I just get a quick, quick what I call a stick, sorry for the drawings with this pen I got, but if I were to get a quick drift with this, he would see it. He'd have to break on that, and he would have to break on this as far as the middle hot dropper in that picture. So he's the 3 dropper, he's the 2. If they switch, he knows he doesn't have to worry about being so much inside because he does have help with the mic, right? So that's how I would play my third defenders, my outside third defenders. As a middle third defender, I would work initially toward where my biggest threats are. So anytime it's a 3-by-1 single X, I would work toward the field. I always talked about when I coach the safeties that I want to look at receivers early, quarterback late. So I see where 3 is going to go. So if 3 pushes this way, then I'm going to split these goalposts with quarterback vision. If 3 goes out or just even blocks, then I'm going to work this way. But the corner is going to be more on his own to the backside. And again, I can disguise this a ton, which we do, where I can even flat foot him to run pass with the triangle and then get out of there on my third, or I can phony it up somewhere. I'm staying here and then work to my third. I just got to make sure that I have the depth where I'm a true post player in that picture. And on a run play, he obviously is playing the alley, which everything has to be inside shoulder, right? Making sure the ball doesn't cross my face, and that's how we give up huge plays. Right. So I hope that helps as far as how I'd play the coverage. But again, it's initial 3 to final 3. So if I go ahead and I take this back, I put them here, and it was just to go ahead and do sprint out, right? So we just go ahead and sprint them out. Then I would go ahead and go ahead and push my middle defender toward that seam. I push him toward the flat, and I'd push him over, just making sure nothing's going to cross his face. But again, as much zone as I can get, and I'm pushing everybody in that direction. Right. Hopefully, we're getting great pressures, and that will help. All right. I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas on how you can implement the 3 deep, 3 under zone pressures to help yourself. I think it's really effective in one, knocking down run plays that are giving you a problem. You can attack certain surfaces, you can attack certain protections, and manipulate those protections with your disguise and what you're doing. All right, so I have some really basic drawings here, but I'm going to use these to show you the different things we can do. You can be a 3-down team or a 4-down team, doesn't matter. But somehow we're going to be 3 deep, 3 under, zone blitz, and we can bring any 5 we want, which I showed you in the other picture. All right, so let's just go ahead and take America's zone blitz for a minute. All right, so we'll just blitz him off the edge, make it real simple. We'll go ahead and long stick him. We'll cut him here, and if he blocks down, we'll cross his face. We'll go here for the containment, right? We'll box everything from a run standpoint. right? And we'll bring him here as a spill blitzer. Right. So America's Zone Blitz, right? Real easy. So in this picture, he's going to play a real third. As soon as one of these two deviate and it's not two verticals in any way, then he no longer has to midpoint and he'll go ahead and play mod on whoever's left. All right. The strong safety in this picture is going to come down. And I think you only got to come to about 10 yards unless you're getting something that's turning out real fast, right? We got to turn it back because now, just like we said before, this is the strong safety in this picture is our skiff defender. So he's going to play seam to curl flat, and he is the 1-2 fitter on a run play. Okay. Or if they threw the ball out there as a screen, right? Here's one, here's two. So he has to fit between this and turn this back because the corner is a secondary support, third defender. So in this picture, the Willie, okay, is he is our hook player, middle hook player, and he's relating to number 3. Okay. And the rush in this end, he's the drop back, and he is the skiff player. He's going to drop out of there. And he now is going to relate to the skiff. So he's going to relate through 2 again. All right. This, I think, depending on how good this Y is, you got to decide, am I going to play a real third and then play mod if he doesn't get out or he goes flat or whatever happens, or I can just say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and press him anyway. I'm not really worried about this guy, and I can play a real mod defender, right? And obviously the safety has to eventually work his way to the middle third. So that's the most basic zone blitz there is in football, but you can see how simple it is, right? And I'm essentially, if I stayed 3 deep, 3 under, and I'm not going to use any quarters based stuffers, 2x2s, which I'm going to get that in another video, right? Any kind of quarters or traps, then I can go ahead and just purely back up the blitz. So if I do the same thing, right? Let's say I just want to bring it. So I would, again, I'll give you some stuff. All right. Let's say we just call that fire. It's a hot blitz and it's coming from the field. All right. Just say that's a hot blitz coming from the field. Right. If I want to do it where I'm coming from the boundary, right? Let's say I'm just coming from the boundary, I'm doing the same thing, and I can switch up the patterns. All right. You switch up the patterns, but for right now, let's just keep it simple. Right. Here it is. He's coming here. Let's say I want to switch it. I want to run him here and I'll run him for a contain. Okay. So now the free safety can come down as a skiff player. Here's my third player. How are we going to determine that? Here's my middle third. Right. Here is my skiff player to the field. Here's my third to the field. And here's my middle hawk, who's the drop off 3 guy. Right. So all I did is I kicked it to the side. I didn't call that burn or blaze, something with a B for the boundary. I can do rocket from the right. I could do lightning from the left. I used to call it spark, where I could call near spark and do it to the back, far spark, do it away from the back. Right. I could do it tight spark, right? Wherever that tight end is. I could do it all kinds of different ways. But again, it's the same pressure. And it's the same coverage, just 3 deep, 3 under in that picture. All right. Well, let's say I want to bring the 2 linebackers. All right. So let's say I want to bring them to the field. All right. Again, I can do the same thing. I can go near spark, or field, whatever I want to call this. Okay. But let's say I just want to do this. Okay. Want to contain it here. Want to contain it here. So if I bring him next, then probably the way I'd do it, I'd bring him screaming through here. I'd essentially lag blitz this guy. I'd try to go to A gap unless he totally blocks down. Then I'll come off his butt. I'll bring him around. And anytime I penetrate with one guy, I can take the secondary guy and I could read out with a guard pull or if I got fast flow away. Again, but it's the same thing here. So I'll just back up the blitz and make it simple. So here's my skiff player. Here's my 3 player. Here's my middle third player. Here's my skiff player. Here's my third player. Here's my third player. So I always like doing this because my free safety is a good football player, and I felt like he could run down plays. He'll play everything inside out, right? Because he's going to play everything outside in. I never got really tied up hard into gaps from a run standpoint. I just made sure that, hey, I know this. I got to get all turned back. I can't bounce a block. I can't make the ball spilling deep and outside. I'm going to get it back to my blitz and my middle safety look. All right. So you see what I'm getting to. Here's one thing I did when I used to do this is anytime I I also tagged the coverage with it so we could never screw it up. We'd never have no middle third or two middle third players if I was doing a bunch of different blitzes. All right. So the way I did that is I used to just say, okay, that's a free safety. If he was going to be the skiff player, then I called Fresno. All right. Called Fresno. I won't spell it all out. It's just too messy. I'd call Fresno. If I knew he was going to drop in the middle, I called it Florida. So he was inside of it. And if I knew it was a strong safety doing a skiff player, I called that Stanford. We used all college names back then, which I thought was pretty good. So I could call fire Stanford, which meant, hey, it's coming from the field, and Stanford is, hey, it's a college name, but it's a strong safety. So he's the skiff player. And everybody else knew that he was taking care of it, so we could take care of the other parts of it. If it was Fresno, we knew he was a skiff player, which told him he had to be the middle third, obviously, and then we could work from there. So I matched up the coverages. If I was blitzing these two guys here, I always called him as Florida because I knew that, hey, he was the middle because I knew my two outside linebackers were the two skiff players. So I told the safeties where to go, and I thought that was pretty good. If it was something where I didn't know where they were going to go because it was based on a surface, then I usually just tagged it with Boise or we said nothing. But Boise was just blitz. It was a college name, obviously. Boise blitz dictates coverage. And then once they saw it, they called out Stanford. They told them where it was coming. So if it was coming from the field, like, so let's say I had near spark and I was just going to bring it from this side. Right. And I could tag it any way I want. I could, I could bring him first for the long stick, bring him outside. Right. And just call it near spark, right? Wherever it was going. And then they knew that, hey, I'm going away from this. We had calls to make this done. But obviously, this is your skiff player. Here's your middle third player. Here's your third player, outside third player. Here's your middle hook player. Here's your skiff, the strong safety, and here's your third. So you can see the combinations are really endless if you do three deep, three under, right? And it doesn't have to be locked in with just these fellows here. I mean, you can. You, it, I'll give you one more. So it was easy to bring the two outside linebackers, right? And the way I did that, I just would drop down the safety to wherever the passing strength was. So that way, we could call Stanford a boy. We call it Boise if we wanted, but wherever the passing strength was, he dropped down to be the skiff player, right? The inside linebacker would be the hook player, and the other linebacker would be the skiff player, right? So in this picture, that's what it would look like. Okay. All right. But again, it doesn't have to be just these players here. We can go ahead and let's say we're a four down team. All right. So let's just kick down to a four down team. And let's say I've got four great pass rushers. I don't want to drop any of them. I don't want to make it that hard. Well, I can bring any one of these guys here and even do different games with them if I want, right? So, right, I could just bring the Willie off the edge. It's still the same thing, right? It's still I can call that with Fresno. Free safety's got the skiff. Mike's got the hook. Strong's got the middle third, and the Sam is there, and I don't have to worry about dropping one of these ends out of here. I think it's a little bit easier with three down front. I think because you can always stem into a four down front really, really easy. You can even get into 3-3 stuff eventually if you want. I also can change the fronts up to do what we did there too. Maybe I can call this pressure up the middle wherever I want, but I might just manipulate it where, hey, I'm going to bring it to the side. I'm already here. Now I'm going to smash through him, right? Because if he blocks down, I'll come outside him. If not, I thought this was the best way to do this without getting into a ton of detail on it. But this obviously would be a skiff player again. If I want to do this and this, right? Again, the Willie can read out. Here's my contain. And I can do this different ways, but I probably would back up all these middle blitzes just so we don't screw them up ever with the free safety because he's usually closer to the hash, right? So here's my skiff player with the Sam, skiff player with the rush, and then the free safety still is my middle hook defender, which again, hopefully that's a really good tackle. I could funnel all kinds of plays right to him if I did this right? Which we did. There were times we did this, slammed him through here, brought the linebacker that was furthest away first, brought him second, which he could read out, and dropped the safety. So now I got a pretty good chance that I'm funneling this ball right in this lane to one of my best tacklers and defenders. So these are all different things you could do, but we used to call this, I think, X, right? The other one was trailer, the first one I showed you with the Mike and the Willie going. And I can do it all different ways, right? Another thing I think you can do, right? Another thing I think you could do if I go back to this three, right? And I did this a lot at Lafayette. I thought it was pretty good. Is that I would call this trailer blitz where I'm going to bring the Mike and the Willie, but anytime these guys figured out that hey, I thought it was pass, then one I can kick the front in a better rush deal if I want, right? Okay, don't have to. Can do whatever I want or just leave it. Actually, I think I did leave it. Right. So just leave it like this. And I would let them, they would make a call where I would take this nose guard and not slant them anywhere. I'd go straight vertical. And they usually can figure out the slide. By doing that, right? If I go straight vertical, then I would blitz him and I practiced it where I'd go full speed because the nose was going vertical. This guard had his tendency to stay on him, and I would try to push two guys through the same gap to get 2-on-1 on the back. That was very hairy, was a run play, but these guys usually figured out, hey, this is pass. They're pointing, the stances are different, whatever it might be, that I would let them go ahead and make a call. We just told the nose kill, I think, but just had the nose go vertical. And now I might get 2-on-1 on the back, not just get a guy on the linebacker. So obviously, if we can get that done, that's really good. Right. And then it leads you into your safety and corner blitzes as well. So you know, this is this was a really good one. When I was at Lafayette College, we had a safety who had 17 career sacks, and that's a lot, right? That's the most I've ever had by a kid. He's really good. This Trey Martell, and a really good football player. So I try to get him to blitz from all over the place. And because it was simple, he played the Sam, the Mike, the Willie, the boundary corner, the free safety, the strong safety. It wasn't very hard. We told him what he was going to do. But one of the blitzes I really liked all the time was this shadow. Get to my pen again. So blitz him to the A gap, blitz him B gap to ball, contain it, get him out of the way. If the back is on this side, then I'll probably cut him quickly. If I move the back to the other side, it might be quicker for me to just draw it, I think. But if I move the back to the other side, it was here, then I'm more apt to get zoned to the left as you're looking at the screen. So I might go ahead and play this nose guard straight and still have the same gap. So he kind of gets punched into the gap, which buys them more time, makes it harder for the center on the Mike blitzing through there. So that's all I'm doing. I can play him straight if I want, depending on where that running back is. But and I can do it this way too. I can go B gap, let him go A gap to ball. And what I mean by that is because they're at different levels, the strong safety can read out. So if they pull a guard and go fast flow away, then he's able to read out and take the first open gap. And I really like this defense. One, and I haven't talked about this yet, but one, it closes the middle. I always liked this when I got nervous about trick plays. It was very easy for the rush. And the Sam Backer were skiff players, and the Willie, whoever was left, he was the hook player. Right. So I thought this was a really good pressure for him, especially if it was knocked down certain plays that were inside run plays, anything like that. I thought it was really good. Right. Obviously, I haven't talked about this very much, but they could put twins in the boundary. And if they do that, right, if they do that, then I might have to alter exactly. I got to kind of give up something, right? Might have to give up a little bit of my disguise if I do that and play. And again, I'm drawing most of this from a 3-4, but it doesn't have to be, right? I probably, if I was a 4 down and I didn't want to get these guys involved, we did. We did get him involved. We even got the field guy involved, which I'll show you here in a minute. All right. Which you have to move some of those pictures around. But again, real simple, right? I can do the same thing. I can do the same thing with my corner blitzes, right? I can make them all 3 deep, 3 under, easy. So if I take this and I'll, you know, A tough drawing there. All right. So if I take the rush, I'm going to what I call run a track stunt right through him. If he blocks out across his face, blocks down, I'll come across his backside, but I'm going to spill all plays. I'll go ahead and long stick this. I still got down the 4 down, didn't have to be, obviously. And then I'm going to go ahead and contain it. But if you look at this, if I bring the corner, right? Here's my hot third player. Here's my skiff to the boundary. Here's my hook player. Here's my skiff to the field. And I can show you in a later clinic where we can play quarters here to the field as well. But real simple, right? So especially here, I press that corner bunch anyway. So I bring that corner. I can change up the pass. I can have him contain it. This guy track him and then hit it underneath. Still long stick him. Still bring him here. I can even change up what I do here. I can bring him here and bring him around late, which we did a bunch. All we did is we tagged it. We used to tag bounce to it. Usually the bounces were more to the boundary side, obviously not we were expecting to sprint out. But those are a whole bunch of zone blitzes that can help you. I'll give you one that's probably the most radical one. We used to do this. We had a fair amount of success. Same thing, same player. Was a lot of that. But we could go ahead and change up the front. Usually what we did is we might be a 2 techniques, might be a 3 and a 2, whatever it was. Okay. I'll draw like this. Okay. And this was a good stunt for us too. We call it follow. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So we do that same X stunt that I showed you before, slam through here and then eventually contain it. He eventually has to contain it, and I can change up the front. I can put the 3 technique to the field if I want, right? But in this picture, and I only did this when I had a Y attached, but I called it follow. And whoever was closest to the gap first went, and they did a me you call, but he would go first. He would go second. He couldn't read out, and the free safety followed right behind it. So you used to look at this. Here's your third player. Here's your skiff player. He's got 2 outsiders. We had to teach him that. But this was a skiff player, and this was our hook player, and this was our middle third. So here was our middle hook. Well, you see, even doing that, you could do the same thing here. So I take this. Again, let's say I'm worried about it more. Manipulate my front this way, manipulate my front this way. Okay. So same thing here. Do the same follow blitz. You're going to work for contain. He's going to work for contain. Here's my skiff. Can bring it either way. Whoever's got the open gap toward him would always go first, right? Follow the free safety. The strong safety knew he was never doing it. Follow told him that. Again, I'd call this follow Florida if I really wanted to make sure I was concerned about it. But this is my middle hook defender is the end, skiff, and skiff. Right? So again, you could see the combinations are endless, and I didn't I barely hit on if you're a 4 down team and you don't want to get involved in all that, then I could take any one of these pressures guys and blitz those guys. When I had the kid Trey Martell that was really sharp and good and we did a lot of things with it. Football was a little simpler back then probably, but teams were motioning this tight end around and using him as a run guy. So I literally put Trey at one of the safeties and he could crank the front under if he wanted. He could just go make a play, but wherever he thought the play was going, he studied film, he could come off that edge, right? And he could switch sides. He could do whatever he wanted. He could come off this edge. And, this was a little bit more complex, but I'll give it to you. We used to say all our colleges, every coverage had a college name. So Chicago, 2 hard corners, was the Windy City. So if I tagged this same blitz to Windy with it, which I did all the time, it was just one word. But if he ever got caught blitzing, he could check the whole defense into playing Tampa too, which he did a bunch. So he would come off the edge and wreck run plays. It was more of a rundown defense deal. He'd blitz wherever he thought the run plays were going. So he could come off either edge. I even let him come up the middle sometimes. And he just made different calls to the D line to tell him where to go. But again, it was just 3 deep, 3 under. It was as simple as that. And then when I tagged the windy, he could go ahead and play Chicago. All right. All right. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Again, we're always looking for donations for Lawrence First and Goal. So I hope you keep checking out this YouTube channel. If you do, I'll keep adding videos into it.